Welcome to the Orange County Forum, where newsmakers keep you informed about local, national, and global issues that impact Orange County today.
I have the great honor of introducing our featured speaker today. You may wonder why I have that honor, and the answer is I'm taller than Wiley Aiken. I think that's probably the reason. But our featured speaker, in case anybody hasn't heard, is Dianne Feinstein, who is the senior United States Senator from the state of California. Senator Feinstein she's one of the very few public figures who truly need no introduction, so this ought to be very easy for me. She was elected to the Senate in 1992, 20 years ago next month, the first woman ever elected senator representing California. She is influential and highly respected by her for her bipartisan leadership, which in today's Congress is a rare and beautiful attribute. Senator Feinstein's leadership has resulted in strengthening the nation's security, both here and abroad, combating crime and violence, strengthening fuel economy standards, and protecting the environment. Her leadership in national security, the assault weapons ban, the environment, and many other issues has attracted much deserved appreciation and support throughout California. And another first, she is the first female senator to assume the chairmanship of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, a position she now holds. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the podium our senior senator, Dianne Feinstein.
That was very gracious, and I appreciate it.
And I hope it was short enough.
Thank you, yes. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that very generous introduction, Tom, and to the Orange County Forum for sponsoring this event. In particular, I want to thank the leadership of the forum, the present chair, the incoming chair, Henry Mendoza, Nancy Dooley, the executive director, whom I had an opportunity to talk with and give a big hug to, having been through a similar circumstance and understanding how important it is to be tough and put yourself together and continue on. I would like to begin with something I think is on everybody's mind, and that is the economy and where we are today. In September, the national economy added 114,000 jobs, and the unemployment rate dropped to 7.8%. That's the lowest since January of '09. You're very lucky in this county because your unemployment rate is much lower, and you're to be commended for that. California has had a third straight month of strong job gains. Over the 12 past months, more than 260,000 jobs have been added. Unemployment is dropping, but it's dropping slowly. And many of us have wondered about this because usually, historically, when America comes out of a recession, it's like a pulse and numbers move. That hasn't happened. We know that productivity is up, but I think it's uncertainty that really sort of conditions the fragile response to this recession. Consumer confidence is now the highest since it's been since the beginning of the recession. And California's housing market is showing signs of life, and I'll talk about that more. Monthly foreclosures are down by almost 30% since this time last year, and California has been a leading foreclosure state, so that's very good news. And the manufacturing sector is even showing some signs of life, with the economy adding more jobs in that arena. Speaking of manufacturing, I want to share with you a bill that I will introduce early on in the next session. its euphemism is the patent box. And what we have been trying to do is figure a way to attract particularly those intellectual property industries to do manufacturing in this country. And they want to bring back funds, but they want to bring it back at an extremely low tax rate of 5%. When that was tried in 1994, what happened was that none of it was virtually spent on plant, materials, and employees. It really went toward the bottom line of the company here in the United States. So what we have come up with is an idea using patents, that if a product is patented in this country, and we have to decide the percentage of the product that has American patents, and the producer agrees to produce in this country, the taxes drop from 35% to 15% on the products. There are companies that are very interested, Intel, Texas Instruments, other companies. And so we are trying to work this out to have a proposal ready to go in the new Senate. We hope it will reverse that trend. Let me talk a bit about the fiscal cliff. You've all heard about the looming cliff that's due to happen on January 1. And this is a big deal if steps are not taken. And let me take you through it. On January 1, the Bush tax cuts expire. This includes individual income tax rates, but also capital gains rates, the estate tax, education tax, tax credits, credit for low-income families. It includes the payroll tax rates, which have been reduced, and extended unemployment benefits. A long list of business tax breaks also will end, including the research and development tax credit, which is vital if we want to produce new product in this country, and accelerated depreciation. And the Medicare payment rates for doctors drop 30%, which jeopardizes people on Medicare because doctors will not be eager to handle their cases at a greatly reduced rate. The alternative minimum tax will affect many more middle-class families, and we have been tried to prevent it from doing that if it isn't fixed by the Congress. And finally, something called sequester will kick in, and that slashes with a meat axe, not with a scalpel, both domestic as well as military spending. And it's $1.2 trillion over 10 years. The share for 2013 is $109 billion. This sequester was the result of an agreement, not a good one in my view, between the two sides. And that is, last year, a kind of super committee was created with Democrats on one side and Republicans on the other side. The judgment was, if they put something terrible for failure, that the two sides would come together. Well, the two sides didn't come together, and the result is sequester. Sequester cuts arbitrarily a lot of money, not with any kind of discretion, but across the board. And guess who is the big loser? The big loser is California, with an estimated job loss, according to George Mason University, of 220,000, 137,000 of which are defense-related jobs. So sequester coming in, and if it does what people say it will do, will have a significant downward impact on the California economy. So it's important that we do something to deal with it. Earlier, there has been a plan, which is a long-term deficit reduction plan, put out by two people, and it's Bowles-Simpson. Alan Simpson, with whom I worked, who was a senator from Wyoming, and Erskine Bowles, who was chief of staff to President Clinton. And they wrote a plan which was both tax reform, in that it took 6 tax brackets, compressed them to 3, and it eliminated a large number, very large number, of deductions. It also made long-term changes to entitlement programs, which I'm going to address in a moment. I've read the plan. The belief is that they are rewriting some parts of it, but I believe we should endorse the framework of Bowles-Simpson. I believe that enacting a long-term budget deficit reduction program is really the way to go. Additionally, thanks to an economist that I greatly respect, his name is Mark Zandi, he works for Moody's Analytics, he has suggested that if you take the whole fiscal cliff and do it right now for this year, it's a loss of over $700 billion and a 3 to 4% impact negatively on GDP. But if you do just a part of it, plus embracing the framework of Bowles-Simpson, you have a negative impact of around 1%, which is not that much of a deterrent to continue the upward progress of emergence from the recession. So he has suggested, and I think this is a good idea, that you take half of the $109 billion, which is $55 billion or $30 billion in outlays, and make those cuts up front. And what this says to everybody that's watching is that we are going to move in this arena. That you also do the tax, keep the taxes low for the middle income, but increase them above the $250,000. Now, the reason this needs to be worked out is because with all of the deductions, these are not easy to eliminate. For example, do you want to eliminate charitable giving? Do you want to eliminate the child tax credit? There are all these things that one needs to think. But for sure, we want to restore the research and development tax credit. We're going to have to restore the doc fix. So this means that a very careful look through what we call regular order, which are hearings in the committees of the United States Senate, is really called for. And I very much agree with that. I have done, in all the years I've been back there, a constituent breakfast. And at that constituent breakfast, I try to explain what's happening. And I want to do that here today. This is a pie chart. And as you can see, a part of it is red. It's a rather substantial part. And it has the word entitlements. These are projected federal outlays. This is not the budget. This is what the federal government actually spends in the year 2012. It's a product of the Congressional Budget Office. And so I think these numbers, which my staff has updated over the past 20 years, are important to look at. Entitlements, which are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and veterans benefits. It's everything that an individual is entitled to by law. If it's the law, you get it. These are now 58% of everything the federal government will spend in 2012. When I began doing this, the number was 48%. Interest on the debt is 6%. If you add these two together, that's 64% cannot be controlled. 64% must be paid out. Then you look at what everybody thinks is the whole rest of the federal government and its expenditure. And you look at domestic discretionary, which means we have control. Discretionary means we have control over it. And you'll see it is 17%. Now, what does that include? That includes the 22 agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. It includes the Justice Department, the Education Department, the Agricultural Department. It includes every aspect of the federal government, except defense. This number is 19% in the budget. This number does not include war fighting, and that's important for you to know. War fighting is done by supplemental, and historically, America has always paid for their wars with a form of war tax or savings bonds or in some other way, but we've paid for wars. The Iraq War was not paid for. It was put on the deficit, and that's the first $1 trillion. Let me take you to another chart, which is America 2001 to 2012. And the source here is the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, and the Senate Appropriations Committee, on which I serve. The population from 2001 to 2012 has gone up 9.8%. Defense and war spending is up 64%, very different from that because of the cost of wars. Entitlement spending up 30%. Domestic spending down 0.5%. And here's the crux. Tax revenues down 13%. As a matter of fact, today, America has the lowest tax rates in 55 years, by and large. And it doesn't seem to matter out there. But I think people have to recognize that the private sector doesn't repair potholes, doesn't pay for police or fire or FBI or intelligence or for the military or for the federal highway system and for federal grants to education. So there's a hard decision to make, I think, as people look at this arena. Let me go on to housing. Nationally, today, 11.7 million homes have mortgages higher than the property's value. That's what's known as an underwater mortgage. In California, close to 2 million homes are underwater. That's 1.97 million to be specific. That's 30% of all of our homes are underwater. So in Orange County, you actually have one of the lowest rates in the state. It's 18.2%, and you're very fortunate to be there. One of the things that this president has been trying to do is put forward a number of proposals which ease mortgage modifications. I have taken one part of that and drafted legislation. Today, if you have a totally commercial loan from a bank, whatever that bank may be, you cannot modify it. The loan has to be backed by either Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or federal insurance. What we are doing in this bill is providing an opportunity to provide some of that insurance to homeowners that have commercial loans so that they can modify their loans from, say, 7% to the going rate of whatever it is in the vicinity of 3%. There are obviously qualifications. The homeowner must be current in their mortgage. Their mortgage must be within the conforming limit. They must meet a minimum credit score. The home must be their principal residence, and the loan cannot exceed 140% of the home's value. This bill stands, if we can get it passed, to help as many as 4 million homeowners nationally, according to Realty Track. More than 1 million right here in California, and most of them in Southern California as well. So I hope to be able to move that bill in the lame duck session. Now, let me just talk to you for a moment, and then I'll open it up if you want to ask some questions about what I do on the Intelligence Committee. The Intelligence Committee, before 3 years ago, has been highly partisan, and the committee's been unable for 6 years to pass a bill. I've been on that committee since before 9/11. I became chairman, and it became very important to me to be able to put both sides together into one entity. And I'm very lucky. My vice chairman is Saxby Chambliss, who is Republican from the state of Georgia. I trust him. We work closely together. I share with him, and he shares with me. Sometimes I yield to him, and sometimes he yields to me. And what this has accomplished is bringing both sides together. I try to keep people informed. I'm open to conversations, and believe it or not, that simple thing works. And so we have become a truly bipartisan committee. Now, many people ask me, well, tell me, are we safer today than we were before 9/11? And my quite honest answer is absolutely. And I want to share with you some of the things that have happened. Before 9/11, we have 16 big intelligence agencies, and all their intelligence was shared by agency. They had essentially stovepipes up, and that was their territorial imperative. So information wasn't streamlined down to where it could be put into a finished form and really distributed. That's all changed. The information is streamlined now. It is better analyzed. It is better red teamed. We have created a position of National Director of Intelligence, which is held by Jim Clapper, a 4-star who headed the Defense Intelligence Agency, and has overall oversight of all of these agencies. Secondly, the FBI has developed a national security branch that has some 10,000 people working for it. And we have developed a national counterterrorism center. Now, you might say, why does the FBI need 10,000 people working for it? I asked my staff to prepare a list of terrorist plots that have been stopped in the United States from 2009 to 2012. And let me just give you 2012 so far. In October, a plot to bomb the New York Federal Reserve Bank. In September, a plot to bomb a downtown Chicago bar. In May, a plot to bomb Brecksville Northfield high-level bridge in Ohio. In March, a conspiracy to provide material support to the Islamic Jihad Union. 10th, in February, a plot to carry out a suicide bomb attack against the United States Capitol in February. In January, a plot to bomb locations in Tampa, Florida. So this goes on, and these have all now been compiled and are public information as to who's been arrested and what's happened with them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is well worth it. I'm sorry to say, I wish I could say that terror is a thing of the past, and that the United States has nothing to worry about. But that's just not correct. We do. And I think, candidly, one of the best efforts has been the takedown of Osama bin Laden. This has been a hard one, and I'm not going to speak politically, but I can tell you that intelligence was gained from national technical means that was able to make an identification. The team that went in was well rehearsed. They knew what they were doing, and they went in, and the mission was a success. And so the mastermind of 9/11 is no more. Now you might think, oh, the fact that one half of the al-Qaeda leadership has been taken out, plus the leader himself, should indicate to you that al-Qaeda is no more. That's just not true. Al-Qaeda has moved into Yemen, it's moved into the Maghreb, it is moving into Mali, it is moving into Syria, it is moving into Iraq, it is moving into Libya, and others as well. So if they can, they will. And it's really very important that our intelligence is able to go into cultures, and this is very hard to do, where the culture is very different from our own, where the language is different, where the dialects are different, and develop a stream of information to our government, which is both good and correct. One of the reasons I wanted to do what I do is because I voted to go to war in Iraq based on false intelligence. I read the classified report twice. I read the white paper twice. I became convinced, based on statements by the Vice President and others, Secretary of State, holding up a vial which contained a mobile biologic agent produced in a mobile biologic lab in Iraq. Right? Wrong. None of that existed. No weapons of mass destruction have ever been found in Iraq. And I have to live with that vote for the rest of my life. And I feel very strongly about getting this right. And what Benghazi has showed to me is that we still have a long way to go to see that intelligence is timely, that the assessments are good assessments, not wrong assessments, and that we have the kind of intelligence officers all over this world that can protect American interests. So that's my goal as chairman of this committee. Ladies and gentlemen, I have had 20 years of exposure now to the Constitution. It's 27 amendments, it's 7 articles. And that Constitution and the court decisions that have followed it by way of interpretation have actually produced the strongest democracy on earth. And that democracy depends on people coming together for the overall good of this nation, regardless of party. And so the time for excessive partisanship has departed. We know what it's like. We know what it does. You cannot do the people's business in this kind of a framework, and it must end. And so I want to devote my next term to seeing that it does end, that we work across the aisle, that we do the people's business promptly and effectively, that we bring bills to the floor, that we debate them with an historic and an institutional knowledge, the way experience teaches us to do, and we represent all of the people of this great country well. Thank you very much.
The Orange County Forum is brought to you through the generous support of the Orange County Register and our sustaining partners. For more information about the Orange County Forum, call 949-588-9884. The Orange County Forum is a nonprofit organization. Your contributions are tax deductible.